Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I hope you all had a great summer. And if you've already started your semester, I hope you're having a great start. If you have not, I really hope that you're getting ready for a great start. Thank you for joining us today. Just a quick recap if you're new here, we are a initiative within the cybersecurity defense community of practice for the NCAC program. And we are here to support new and early career faculty that are maybe just starting out on their teaching journeys. And this is not just people coming out with PhDs, these are people coming from industry, they're coming to teaching, and all of those different things. We've been running this for about 2 years now. So if you would like to check out our past workshops, we record everything and it is on the CAE community website as well as the YouTube page. So if you want to check us out from previous ones, if you're just joining us, or if you want to rewatch any of them as we're kind of coming up to the new semester. Today we are going to be doing a back to class connections. We have three guest speakers here today. The first one that's going to be going is going to be Leah Carter and Diego Soto from CLARK. They're going to be sharing about a cybersecurity curriculum library where you can get free cybersecurity curriculum if you're looking to teach some new topics or maybe just enhance some of your existing courses. And we also have John Sands with us from My EMATEs, who's going to be sharing some really awesome interactive modules that you can really drop into your class. I use a lot of them in my Intro to Cyber course. So we're going to have Leah and Diego go, and then we'll have John talk a little bit. And then at the end, we're going to wrap up with just anyone who would maybe want to share a cool resource that they're using in their course so that we can all get better together. So to kick us off, I'm going to turn it over to Leah and Diego. You guys should be good with screen share. And if people have questions, feel free to drop them in the QA or the meeting chat. I'm going to turn it over to them. Thank you guys for being here.
All right, let me get this out of here. All right, can everyone see my screen?
You are good to go.
All right, awesome. Well, happy Friday, everyone. Like Paige said, I'm Leah and this is Diego, and we work for the product CLARK. So just give you a little background on our story. So CLARK is run by a nonprofit called Secure Ed. And it was started by two professors at Towson who really believed in sharing resources. Especially, they were cybersecurity professors and wanted to share their resources in the cybersecurity community. So we've been around for almost 8 years at this point. And like Paige mentioned, we are a free cybersecurity repository. So yes, there's no gimmicks, there's no hidden costs. You don't even need to use your .edu email to sign up. You can use your Gmail, Yahoo. And I'll get into more numbers on how much we have, but since we're a nonprofit, we wouldn't be where we are today without all of our partnerships. So as you see on this first slide is all the people who've been our partners from the beginning, and keep us running. So CLARK stands for Cybersecurity Labs and Resource Knowledge Base. So yes, it is all cybersecurity curriculum, but it's over a slew of different topics. So on this slide, you can kind of see just a different variety of some of our most popular topics. And it also ranges in level. So it's not just all undergrad. We start all the way from K-12 all the way up to postgraduate and postgraduate resources. And it's not just syllabus. We have full 15-week courses of materials. I'm talking PowerPoints, assessments, labs, case studies, you name it. Very interactive, very hands-on. Again, our mission is to make your job easier, to make it easier to teach cyber in your classroom, whether Paige said you're looking for brand new material or you're looking for material to enhance your already created curriculum. So one thing we pride ourselves on is having classroom ready, high quality classroom ready curriculum. So you can just come onto CLARK, find something that is of interest to you, download it and use it in your classroom the next day. And also too, at the end, I'll go on to CLARK and show you kind of how to navigate and what that looks like. So just by numbers, kind of give you guys an idea of how much we have on CLARK. We have over 1,900 pieces of curriculum, which is amazing. That has over 70,000 downloads, and we have over 18,000 users. So Just to be clear, all the curriculum that is submitted on Clark is by faculty. So really, again, our platform is created by faculty for faculty. And everything goes through a peer review process. We want to make sure that everything, all the way from spelling and grammar to formatting. So like I keep mentioning, we want you to come in, download, and use it the next day. Another piece too that we is an ongoing initiative for us is making sure everything's relevant because as you all know, especially in the cyber world, things are ever changing. So we're going through processes of making sure the curriculum on there is constantly being updated. So everything that you guys are teaching is still relevant. So how our curriculum is organized is every learning object is put into a collection. So I wanted to highlight this collection. There's another collection that Diego will talk about. This is our Intro to Cyber collection, which will probably interest most of you. This is, all the topics that fit into that Intro to Cyber. It's mostly undergrad and graduate, but probably more in the undergraduate level if you're looking for stuff to teach in your intro to cyber. And when I go on the Clark site, I'll tell you where to find this and highlight some pieces that might be useful to you all. So Diego's just going to give you a little insight on our security injections collection.
Yeah, hello everyone. So the second collection that we're going to highlight is security injections. This is actually the oldest collection we have available on Clark, but as we kind of mentioned, everything's relevant. Everything's been gone through review checks. A little backstory is that this actually was initiated it started as the dissertation from Dr. Taylor, who was one of the founders here at Secure Ed here at Towson. And the whole idea about it is all related to secure coding practices. Hence the name security injections. It's about injecting those security principles into the minds of students early on in their education careers. I think the idea behind it being more because what you'll see in a lot of institutions is they'll have the regular CS 0, the CS Computer Science 0, Computer Science 1 intro classes for programming. But a lot of times is maybe they will leave out a lot of the security related principles from those classes. And maybe later on in the student's career, maybe in their third year and their fourth year, they'll take a security related class. But a small issue with that approach is maybe sometimes students will go through that process and maybe they won't think as security being something so important to the software development lifecycle. So when you go to the security injections collection page, you'll see this graph, which I'll explain. We have various topics on the left that go from integer errors to buffer overflows to, I know we have SQL injections as well. On the top, the CS zeros are the different levels. So we'll have computer science 0, computer science 1, and computer science 2, with the topics getting increasingly advanced just by little. And in the middle is where you have the individual, they're all self-contained learning modules, and we have them different. We have a variety of different languages available. You can see we have C++, Java, we have pseudocode, and for some of these topics, we have Python available as well. And so when you click on one of those boxes in the middle of the chart, it'll redirect you to another page that'll kind of resemble an assessment. But as I said, they're all self-contained learning modules that kind of begin with giving a small introduction about the topic. It usually gives like a real world example of it. I know for the buffer overflow, it talks about the Morris worm. It then is followed by a short quiz that's a multiple choice that the students have to get all of them correct before they're able to advance to the next segment. And there's usually about 4 or 5 segments that they have to get through. They're all interactive, they're all responsive. I believe one of them, for one of the segments, probably the last one, it's a lab where it will maybe give like it'll give a snippet of code and ask the student to choose or be able to click through the lines and have to find the vulnerabilities. And once they go through the whole assessment, it generates a certificate for them at the end. Very useful for any intro to programming classes, especially if you really want to inject those security principles early on. So this is available on Clark for you guys to check out.
And I'll show them how you can find that on Clark when I get to the demo part. So one thing I want to call out here, which is, very important to all the folks in the CAE community, is we have present the opportunity to align, all of our curriculum is aligned to some sort of framework, or is going to be aligned. So if you're looking to teach, I don't know, let's say a specific CAISAT in the cyber workforce framework, you can try to find that curriculum. And again, if you're looking for a specific one, you'll be able to filter that through and find that piece of curriculum that attaches to that KSAT. So just another great feature. Again, this continues to grow as this is a big initiative on our end to make sure all of our curriculum is aligned to some sort of guideline or framework. And then you might ask, how am I able to use this in my classroom? So we function under the Creative Commons license. So the beautiful part of that is that when you come in and you want to download something, you could use one slide, you can use the whole slide, the whole PowerPoint. It's really however you would like to use it. So you can share, remix, reuse. As long as you attribute back to the original creator, which I can show you how to do that. It's just a simple click of a button that will generate an attribution link. And yeah, like I said, come in if you love one PowerPoint, one graph here, or you want the whole thing. It's however you would like to use it in your classroom. So now I'm going to show you CLARK in terms of kind of what you can find and highlight some curriculum that might be of interest to you guys. So let me get out of here. All right. Can you see CLARK on your screens?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. So CLARK is easy to access. It's clark.center. And again, like I mentioned before, you do not have to have a .edu. You can use your Gmail if you prefer. So let me just log in here. But what you'll have to do is if you don't already have an account, create an account and then just make sure you verify your email. And that way you can start downloading and using the curriculum. So I also wanted to make sure too, to be very clear, sometimes people get a little confused. They think that we're kind of a mimic of a Coursera. We do not have, our curriculum is not attached to credits or certifications. So yes, it's all for faculty to come in and use in their classroom. It's not necessarily for students to come in and get credits for. So I just always like to make that pretty clear, because sometimes that can be a little confusing. So here is our homepage. And like I mentioned before, this is our collection page of all our different collections. Here you can find the security injections. And like I mentioned, like Diego mentioned, here are all the different secure coding modules that you can use. Like I said, very interactive, a great place to send your students to do some interactive secure coding in all these different varieties. And these were actually all just updated this past like 9 months ago. So all these are up to date and relevant. So very excited about that. So I'll go back up to collections and show you, here is the Intro to Cyber collection. And if you hit Browse Collection, here's where you can see all of the learning objects that fall into those Intro to Cyber. Actually, in particular, I want to call out Paige. Some of Paige's, a little bias here, call out some of Paige's curriculum. She has some great learning objects on here. This one in particular, the Introduction to AI and Cybersecurity. As you can imagine, we're getting a lot more of AI curriculum coming through. So in the next couple of weeks, we have a whole cyber law and policy in AI course coming that's really exciting. So again, we are constantly getting new curriculum. So it's one of those things where once you check us out, keep checking us out because we're constantly going to be having new stuff coming to CLARK. And like I mentioned, AI is a huge push, and it's something that we're looking for professors to submit AI curriculum on CLARK, as well as, people are looking for it. So this is a great example of one that you might all be able to use in your classroom. And then I just want to go to the Browse curriculum page here. So here's where you can use our filters. So you can filter by collection, by length. This could be useful, if you're looking for a full course or you're just looking for maybe an hour or two lesson, that's when you can denote the length here. Topic, like I mentioned, yes, we are all cybersecurity related, but as you can see, look at the diversity of topic that we have here. And then level if you're just looking for undergrad or maybe you're looking for graduate. And then here is where you can search by guidelines if you're really trying to teach towards a certain alignment. That's where you can click there. And then we do have a tagging feature. So this can be really helpful if you're looking for a specific programming language that you want to teach, or if you're looking for curriculum that has labs attached to it, or a syllabus, or has videos. Just a nice little feature here. Um, One other thing I wanted to mention, if you are interested in submitting your curriculum to Clark, every page you go to, you'll always see this contribute button. I'm not going to walk you through the uploading process because I don't want to take up too much time, but just something to consider if you're interested in throwing your stuff on Clark, you always are able to do so. Um, and then another thing I want to highlight is we have office hours twice a month. So if you click on here, you'll be able to see the days and times that it's usually always me sitting behind the desk. This is when you can come if you have any questions and you're looking for a specific curriculum and you can't find it. If you want to upload curriculum and you need help doing so, whatever questions you may have, you can always try to join these office hours, whenever you'd like. So that's Clark. Like I said, clark.center, all free to use, lots of options. And again, I hope you guys utilize it. And if you have any questions, go back to my last slide here. This is my contact information. So our general info box is info@secureed.team, but my email is leah.carter@secureed.team. And I know Paige will probably share these slides with you guys after this meeting. But we really appreciate your time and thankful for Paige for letting us to share our platform for you guys. Again, we're here as a resource to make your lives a little bit easier in academia. Yeah, that's all we have. If anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer anything.
Thank you both. If anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or the QA. Or if you'd like to come off of mute, feel free to do that as well. And I will be sharing all their contact info and all of that kind of stuff as well in the follow-up email I send. Cool. Well, if there aren't any questions, or if you guys think of one later, we can include it in an email and we can drop it in the chat. But I'm going to turn it over to John Sands to talk a little bit about EMATEs. And then we can also talk a little bit at the end too before we sign off. So I'm going to turn it over to John. Thank you again, Leah and Diego, for joining us today. John, the floor is all yours.
All right. What do I got to do to share here? Let's see. Advanced share options, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It says more than one person, one participant share at a time.
Yep. If you just hit the share, I think that's where your option will come up. They have like two buttons. It's weird.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
There you go. Cool.
All right. Everyone see it?
It's starting. There we go. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So thanks for having me this morning. My name is John Sands. I'm with Moraine Valley Community College and the Insight Center. And we also run the Educational Pathways National Center. So what I'm going to show today are EMATEs and then some of the other resources that we've been sharing over the last year and a half, or I should say over the last year or so. And the resources really are the ability to create some of these things yourself using AI now. So I'll go into both of those aspects of it. So the first thing is EMATEs. How many is out there now use EMATEs? Have you used them? Any hands?
I have.
I have too.
Okay. All right. So we have some people that have used them. Okay. So what EMATEs are, I'm really filling in for Mike Qaissaunee. He was supposed to be here today to present this, but it started as a National Science Foundation project that Mike had. And the idea was to take those, really difficult little concepts that students typically struggle with and create, electronic snippets or mini lessons to teach those topics. And we ended up calling them EMATEs. I tried to tell Mike to call them QMates for because his last name Qaissaunee, but he didn't like that. So, but we call them EMATEs, electronic mates. And what these are just mini lessons on different topics, right? So if you go to the page, it's myemates.org. So just remember it's my and EMATES, it's plural.org. We have over 150 of these now. And basically, we break them into categories. So cybersecurity, cryptography, CMMC, networking, programming, mathematics, electronics, so on. But if I go to cybersecurity, which I imagine most of you are here for, we have got all kinds of games and activities that you can use. So like there's a hangman game here. You can put your own terms and so on in. But let's go into some of the content ones. So again, what these are supposed to do is to play on issues or topics that students might, struggle with. So we have everything from like the CIA triad. We call that the cube after the Macomber cube. So if I open this one, you just click on these. These are all totally free. You don't have to sign up or anything. You just have to go to the website and you can go through these. So this one's going to introduce the whole concept of the CIA triad. And then with it as a cube, right? Because not only do we have, the concepts of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, but we have them in 3 states. So you can basically just go through these in their animations, basically. And then along with these, there's assessments. There's one that's like a challenge that tests students' knowledge of these in. But those are the 3 dimensions. And then we say, okay, well, that's the case. We have these 3 dimensions, but we also have 3 states of data. And it talks about the 3 states of data. And then it says, okay, in addition, we have 3 types of countermeasures. So we have awareness and training, we have technology, policies, and procedures. And it goes through each one of these. And then it shows you that when you're managing a system, that there's a cross, 3-dimensional cross section of these. So you can, let's say you want something with confidentiality, with data that's being stored, and you want a technology, right? Well, it will give you an example of that. And you can go to each one of these. They're all interactive and so on. And the idea is to teach these concepts sort of interactively, sort of fun way to teach them. If we go to the next one, we've got all kinds of different approaches that we used. So like here's one that's a mission. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, but this one teaches biometrics. And they're rigorous. They're not, this isn't baby, level. This is pretty rigorous stuff. So in the first one, it basically lets you go through the 2 categories of biometric identifiers, right? So physiological ones, and you can go around the corner and see, have students look into each one of these, or you can use this to lecture on them. So you can use these a lot of different ways. And then we can look at the second category, which are behavioral ones. And again, we can go and get the information on those. And then what we try to do is make it sort of fun. So now we have, can you hear the music or not? So you might recognize that as Get Smart. And now what we have this person do is actually go in and use the different biometrics, and it shows examples of it using it, how the technology works, so on, and then you get access. There's a whole a series of these different challenges, but then we get into more deep side of this as well. So I'm just going to go next through a bunch of these. And then we go into things like the selection process of these, and what are some of the criteria and so on. I'm not going to go all the way through, but just to give you an idea what it's like, the security concerns, and then there's a quiz built into it. So that's just another form of eMate that we do. But we've got a ton of these, and we've got them in each of those different areas. So you can see we have some in access control. This one's a very popular one, malware types, advanced persistent threats, zero-day attacks. So we basically go through and show examples of these. And again, they're interactive, so you can go through them. Another one that's pretty popular would be this one. By the way, our most popular, how many of you teach binary math in your classes? That happens to be our most popular. We've hit over, I think we're over 2 million hits on it, but it's under mathematics, and you go into binary. And this one basically is an interactive way of teaching binary math. So, introduces the idea of the two digits, and then that we can use input devices like switches to input those 2 digits, and output devices to show the 2 states. And then we can show, like, they can basically use this to count and see how you can count with setting these switches and the lights. You can count up and count down. And then it breaks down how the operations work. And then you can actually practice. So let's say you give your students, you want to know what 120 is. So they know they're not going to need a 128. They will need a 64. They're going to need a 32. They are going to need a 16, and they're going to need an 8. And there's 120. And you can see here's the binary value up here. Here's the exponents of 2. And here's the values. And then here's which values we add up to get 120. This has been a really popular one. It's one of our most popular. We even get into how binary decimals work. So anyone know how the ones and zeros work on the other side of the decimal point? This one shows you that the first one represents a set of 2. It's a reciprocal of 2, which is 1/2. And instead of 4, it's a reciprocal of 4, which is 1/4 or 0.25, and so on. So we show how those work as well. But just really, things that you can either incorporate into your lecture or you can assign to students as part of a class. We've got one on hexadecimal as well. It uses the thing, if we were born with 8 fingers, or we probably would use hexadecimal as our natural way. There's a little video integrated, and then we go in and let students practice with this. So, but that's the one on hexadecimal. We also have it on scientific and engineering notation. And if you put your mouse over, you'll see it gives you the title, a description, the keywords, and then what level they're appropriate for. And you'll notice almost all of these are appropriate for high school and community colleges. And like here's one on engineering notation, but they're very structured where it walks step by step how a process works. So, here you can see, sort of how the concept of what engineering notation is all about. And then they can go through and see why we use them. And then they start to see how to convert to these. And it literally walks them through the steps of moving the decimal point and how many steps and multiples of 3, and then your actual conversion. And then there's always practice in all of these. So at the end, they'll get to practice them. This one has like matching. I'll just skip through some of these, but it has like ones where you match. You have to pick the best value for this. This one's you have to move it up or down to pick the best value. So, just another example. We've got a lot in cryptography now, and I think those have really been well received. But you can see the topics, everything from block mode to blockchain, cryptocurrency. One of my favorites is this one right here. And this one basically just shows, what a code is. So we use an ASCII code to show different characters, right? But it's all interactive. And then we actually show conversion. So we have to take this capital letter A, and you have to practice putting it in binary. And by the way, they can pull the table up to see it. Okay, so they now have to practice like converting these to binary, hex, and decimal. And then we talk about that there are non-printable ones. And then we show the whole basic concept of serial encryption, and that we use XOR process to do this one. So we show if we have 2 zeros going in other words, there's no difference in these, then the answer out will be false, right? And we have a truth table that shows that. If one of them goes high, now they're different. They're exclusive OR. One has to be exclusively different than the other. And you can see now the gate shows a true and the light goes on. If they're both high, well, there's nothing exclusive. It goes back down to 0. But if we turn the other one off, so you can see the operation of an OR gate. And then we show basically that that's how we serially encrypt things. So we take plain text, a value with a key, and we put it through the XOR process. And you see the results. So 1 and 1, or 0 and 0 gives you 0. 1 and 1 gives you 0. 1 and 0 gives you 1, and you get the idea. It walks you through step by step. And then we'll show we use XOR in encryption because it's easily reversible, right? So now if we take that ciphertext and we add the original key, we can XOR them together and come out with the original text plain text that we put in. And you get the idea. And then it goes into having you do it mathematically, manually to do the operation. And then you do it with values. You can do binary, hex, or decimal and see the results. And then we actually have you go through and put a plain text in. It will encrypt it with a key. So like we can say hello. Or let's see, we only have enough for 4 characters here. So we'll say Um, so girl, and we'll say 555 or AAA is our key. And then you can see the encryption process, right? And then the ciphertext. And then we can actually go and then decipher it. We can paste it back in and reverse the process. So that's what the EMATEs basically do. They're step by step. You got to sort of go through them. There's even really simple ones on like Caesar cipher, and then we get into some really complex ones too. So you can see we get into like to do asymmetrical, you have to know how to do factoring and prime numbers. So there's one on factoring prime numbers. There's a really good one on here on hashing. And the one thing I should tell you is that for those that use these, do you know how to integrate these into your LMS? Does everyone not integrate these into your LMS? Any questions on that? All right, if you don't know, let me show you real quick. So this is something that we show also. There's tools out there. You have to put these in something called an iframe. There's a website out there called iframe-generator. Looks like this. And what this does is it creates an iframe. So what an iframe is this. You can't actually take our EMATEs and put them into a page. And you can put the URL in, but then what happens if you put the URL into a page, when they click on it, it sends them outside of your LMS, right? And most teachers don't want to do that. They want to keep the students in that page. So what this one lets you do is to actually take one of these EMATEs. So, as an example, we'll go up and we'll pick this one right here. And if I take the URL for this and I go to iframes, what happened there? We got an ad, close. All right. You paste the URL in here for it. And then you basically tell it, like, what width and height do you want, to fit on your page? And you can play around with that and check it out and see how it works. Do you want to be able to scroll or not? But again, and then like you want background colors, stuff like that. And you can actually generate it to see what it looks like or preview it. And then you can actually generate the iframe. All right. iframe code. What the heck? Oh, that's previewing. Okay. What is that doing? Huh. But this is the actual iframe code here. And you can just copy that. If you slide down on these, it'll let you copy it. There it is. Copy it. And here it shows you. So this one, you might want to make it a little wider, right? When you preview it. So I could go to the width and I could say, let's make it, 700. And I can re-preview it. And you can see I'm almost there. Probably want to do it a little more. So we'll say 900. Okay. We'll preview it now. And there we go. Now we have the whole thing. Right now we can copy this and it has all that information in here, the height, the width, all that stuff. And what it basically does when you copy this, it runs this page on our website, but it shows a window. It's almost like putting a browser inside of your LMS so the students can stay in that page. So here's an example of it. Let me see if I can do this here. So here's, we do this in a lot of our classes. So if I go into, one of the concepts here, let's say OSI model, you can see here they're embedded now right in my page, and I can run them right in the page. And the way you do it is you just go to edit and you go insert, embed. It opens up this little window here and you paste in the iframe. And then that will put the EMATE right into your page without students having to leave your page. And all the JavaScript and active code runs outside your LMS, so it will leave it. It won't try to remove it from your LMS. All right, but that's how you integrate them if you want to integrate it into your actual page. So that's the general overview of what we do. Now we've got, some in CMMC. So if you're teaching the cybersecurity maturity model, we go through all of that. It goes through everything from labeling to the tags, and then it goes into each one of the domains. Networking, our most popular ones in networking, we do subnetting. That's usually a tough topic for students. So if you go into the subnetting one, this is subnetting class Cs. It's very visual and shows students how to actually do subnetting, right? So, first thing we do is show, we have this big network here, and what subnet does is it breaks it into smaller pieces. So in this case, 2 pieces, right? Or 4 pieces or 8 pieces. And you get the idea. You're basically breaking this into smaller pieces, right? Well, how do you do that? Well, you have to change the default mask that comes with that address, right? So in this case, we have 255, 255, 255, 0 for a class C. Well, if we want to subnet a class C, we have to borrow a bit from that mask. And you can see it shows up here in red how we borrow the bit, right? And that will let us create 2 subnets. So you can see now the new mask would be 255, 255, 255, 128. And you can slide it down by borrow 2 bits, 3 bits, 4 bits, so on, and how many subnets you can create by borrowing those bits, right? And then we show that when you borrow bits, so we borrow a bit here, that you are going to have less hosts now because you're making 2 smaller networks, each one having half the number of hosts, right? So you can slide this over and see, right, what's the effect of borrowing these bits as far as how many hosts per subnet, right? So very visual, good way for students to actually see this. And you don't have to be writing all this stuff on the board, right? And then they can practice. So like in this case, they borrowed 3 bits. So that's going to make our new mask 255, 255, 255, 224. And if I put the wrong answer in, it will tell me, right? How many subnets can I create with that? Well, if I'm borrowing 3 bits, I can create 8 subnets. And then that leaves me with 5 bits for my host. So how many hosts do I have? Well, I have 32, but I can't use 2 of them. So I have 30 usable hosts, right? And if I submit it, it will tell me. If I put the wrong answer in, it will also tell me. All right. Yeah, someone says it's been very helpful. We get a lot of feedback on this one. A lot of people like these. And it lets you practice on all of these. And then here's a visual one where we actually show you, if you go into a network, all networks have the first address is borrowed, and that's the network address. The last address is borrowed, and that's the broadcast address that sends them out to everyone in that network. And then the rest of them are your usable addresses, right? So that's a normal class C network. But if we subnet it, now we're going to have 2 network addresses, the first address in each side, 2 broadcast addresses, the last addresses in each segment, and then 2 ranges of usable addresses. And then we summarize them for you right here, the two subnets. And then we say, all right, but you can also subnet into 4. Now you're going to have 4 network addresses, 4 broadcast addresses, 4 sets of usable addresses. And then here again is your summaries. And then, of course, we can go to 8. And we carry it as far as you can go. So, students can actually see how this basically works. I mean, now we start to add that magic number or multiplier because it gets a little more complicated. So we talk about the concept of the multiplier. And we just keep going all the way as far as you can subnet it. Now, we also did these for Class Bs and Class As. And if you're using classful, variable length classful networks, we also have ones for VLSMs. So there's one out there for that as well. Okay. And then there's practice at the end. There's like questions that they can practice with at the end. Okay. So that's sort of an overview of the EMATEs. What I'd like to show you for a minute or two, do I have a minute or so more?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'd like to show you is what we're doing on our new project. So we're doing a lot now with AI to actually teach teachers how to build these things yourself. So we've been running these 2-day in-person classes that we got a grant from Microsoft to do it. And in that class, we basically teach you how to build these things using AI. Now they're a little bit different, but here is an example. Let's go in. So this is the class basically itself, but let me show you some of the stuff that people have built in the class. So just to give you an idea, we teach you how to build everything from graphical instructional materials for your class. So here's some examples. Like these are things that we teach you how to build in the class. So how do you build a mind map, an illustration, a timeline, a map, a diagram? So by the end of this class, you should be able to build all of these things for your class. And then here's some examples of what people have done in the class. So using AI, we've had nurses in the class and they've shown, how blood pressure works and the difference between systolic and diastolic pressure. We've shown how to do like timelines. So here a chemistry teacher created a timeline when different elements were created. Here we had an automotive teacher talk about what are the steps in replacing brakes. Here we had a history teacher create a map of the Civil War major battles and the casualties at each one of those major battles in the Eastern Front, right? We had a heating and air conditioning teacher making the first basic diagram of how the system works. We had a business teacher that went in and created a graphic on the different types of businesses. So sole proprietorships, partnerships, corporations, LLCs. And then here are the variables that you would determine which business type you'd use, right? So he created a poster for his classroom that showed these. I think you all recognize this. These are the different USB interfaces. An English teacher, what the writing process is. A chemistry teacher doing variations of the periodic table, and you get the idea. So we teach how to build all those kind of things. So those are just some examples of some of the things. And let me just show you some that I've done in cyber. So if we go to cyber one, is it that one? Yeah, here it is. All right. So these are just examples of things that we teach teachers how to build using AI, right? It could be like, how many of us teach DHCP and how to create DHCP and so on, right? So we created like a little tutorial overview of DHCP, right? So what is DHCP? What is DORA? It's the process of how we disseminate addresses, right? So we do discover, offer, request, and acknowledge. And then we have a little simulator that shows how it works. So we start off, the first station makes a request. The next step, the server makes an offer, right? Next step, it accepts that offer. And then we'll acknowledge it, and it takes that out of the pipeline, right? We show what the header looks like with the DHCP protocol, and then there's a little knowledge check, right? But then we could say, okay, now let's have students set up DHCP. So we can easily have AI create a little simulator for creating DHCP pools. So all we have to do is basically say, I want a simulator, and we teach how to write the prompts and so on, how to do this. But if you want to create a pool, you have to put a network address in, 192.168.1.0. I'll just make a really simple one. A mask. All right, a default gateway. A DNS server address. Starting a host range, so we'll start at 192.168.1.16, let's say. How many addresses we want to give out? Let's say 32. The least time, we'll say 24 hours, and you say create, and you can see it creates the pool. And you can have students just practice, what is it to create a pool, right? And we do the same thing with DNS, with NAT. We got all kinds of simulators and stuff, and we basically walk you through how do you build these with AI. It's pretty easy. Even to the point of, let's say you want to do some more complex ones. You want to teach students how RSA keys work. Well, you can build a simulator to do that. Most users would probably say, okay, let's use Bob and Alice, right? That's what's in most of our textbooks. They have to pick a key size. They have to agree upon a key size, right? And then they have to go through the process. They have to use a large prime number, and they have to use a Moeller theorem, and this one basically walks them through what that process is. So we have her create. Here's the process for creating her public key and her private key, or her pairs of keys, right? And then Bob will do the same thing, and it goes through and shows you the entire mathematical process, and then we could use it. So we could say, let's meet in the morning. Let's meet at 10 a.m. Bob uses his public key, encrypts it. She'll go back now and use her private key to decrypt it, and you get the address. So there's a simulator that lets you walk through these. And then, let's say you want to get them to that point where they can do these things. Well, you could do things like a prime number checker. I have one in JavaScript we've done, but you could also do one online. So is this a prime number or not a prime number? And they can go through and test themselves if they know what prime numbers are. I should have done this one first, the prime number generator. This one will actually let them list prime numbers. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Oh, that's weird. There's a prime number counter. Uh-oh. I must have lost connection to, am I still on?
Yep, you're still here.
Okay.
Yeah, you're still here.
All right, we must have lost connection to these. Some of these aren't working for some reason. They usually, it's trying to download them for some reason instead. I'm not sure why. But anyhow, all the way up into, you can build these things into your courses. So like we have a full-blown Security Plus course, right? So what I've done in this Security Plus course, we've created a nice interactive syllabus. So it goes in and gives you, the different parts. We show you how to build this with AI. Okay. All the way to like different modules. So like in my course, I really like to use case studies, right? So what I had AI do, I said, go out to my district, find 4 companies that are in the food packaging and preparation process, right? All right, now create me a fictitious company based on the companies in my district. Look what it created. So it gives me the organization, how many people are employed there, what their annual growth was, how many facilities they have when they were founded, who the CEO is, so on. And all this is fictitious. It basically just made these up, but I can use this now in a case study, right? How many total assets they have, high risk assets, so on. And then it shows me the breakdown of the buildings. And by the way, these are editable, so students could go in and we could change this every class. And then it will show me the assets that they have that they need to protect, their security plan, and so on. But now I can use this in task, right? So in our class, we show you how to build things like this. If I go into assignments, let's say we're all familiar with SEAM, right? So if I want to go in and monitor this particular company, I want to use SEAM. I can go in and teach it what SEAM looks like. And then look at, I can build a SEAM log generator just for Fresh Flow Company, which was my company that I'm doing my case study with, right? Check this out. So I can go in and teach it everything, right? I can say, all right, I went and looked at 4 different SEAM systems that we use in our classes. And I said, learn all of these different type of events. So what kind of events does SEAM record? Well, security events, application logs, network events, process control logs, alarms and alerts. You get the idea, right? So you can pick, let's say we want to monitor process control. What kind of levels are we going to monitor at? So they can see sort of how to set this up before they get into the ones on the VM machines. And then we can have a particular piece of equipment failing, right? We can go in and, let's say we want this to happen. Now we can go in and actually generate the SEAM logs to demonstrate this failing in that company, right? So they can get a realistic view of what happens in a company and what kind of traffic will be generated when something is attacked or starts to fail within that company. But the idea is what we want to go to next is not just giving you and sharing content with you. We want to show you how to build these things. So you can build these specifically for your class. Not that we can share these as well, but we really feel the real value would be, can we teach you how to build these yourself, right? In this whole course, we build everything in it from the class schedule, in a little interactive class schedule with what they're going to do in each class. And you can go into each class, what's done each week, to the syllabus. And then we get into actually building the content. So if we go into the first chapter, we have a detailed outline. Okay, so go and you'll probably notice this aligns to Security Plus, right? So aligns totally to Security Plus, right? And we go into each one of these, and then we actually build the content that goes along with these. All right. But if you're interested, we're offering these as 2-day in-person classes regionally. So, we're asking if there's hosts out there who want to host them, let us know. And then we send a couple instructors out and we basically spend 2 days putting together a Security Plus class or a whatever class, right? I mean, you can build whatever class you want, but you have people helping you, teaching you how to use AI to build stuff like this, right? So that's what we've been working on. By the way, anyone out there taking our class? Anyone taking the AI class? Because we've been all over the country. We've taught 16 of these across the country this summer. We've trained about 470 teachers, I think, this summer. So, but if you're interested, let us know. I think most of you know how to contact us at Insight or myself, and I'll put my email up there. But we are looking for hosts. We're going to be running one in Seattle in 2 weeks, one in Louisiana next month, and one in Florida in September as well. So, and they're totally free. You just got to get there, and we usually feed you and do all that stuff. And in some cases, we have stipends to help you pick up travel. So, all right. Last thing, I just have to show you, you're probably familiar with our website, but if you're not, you can go to our website at myemates.org, or you can also go to caepnc.org. That's our website at Moraine Valley, where I'm at. And then you can also get to the Insight website, and I'm sure most of you are Insight members. So if you do need that information, I can give it to you. But I'm sure if you're here, you're probably an Insight member. So, all right, any questions? I know drinking out of a fire hose, throw a lot out there, but you know.
Okay. Any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. I think there was one a little bit earlier. Are these categorized by grade level? That was when you were doing the e-mate.
Yes. Yes. So if you go to eMates, if you put your mouse over them, you see how it tells you the level at the, so every one of them has a mouse over. Okay. We do have a little booklet that's in the last page that lists them out, but almost all of them are high school, community college. Some actually are middle school as well.
Awesome. Cool. And then if you could send your contact information for the AI class, that seems to be a very popular one in the chat.
Yeah. So here's my email address.
Awesome.
And then if you're looking to register, let me give you that address as well.
Perfect.
So,
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions for John? While he gets that all set up. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining and sharing everything here. I know I use the subnetting one in my class, and I think it's made my students do a little bit better on all the quizzes because they can keep doing it over and over until they get it. And they do it in their own time. I don't have to build anything. I don't have to keep going over it during office hours, so it's helped me a lot. Okay, so just really quickly before we kind of wrap up, I know we only have a couple minutes left here, and I'm not going to hold you guys over the 1 o'clock. Does anyone have any resources that they would like to share with the group as we're kicking off our semester? Or if you are a new teacher, if you're looking for something, if you want to drop it in the chat, or if you want to, just come off of mute and talk a little bit about it. Hopefully, maybe somebody can either point you in the right direction, or we can, work together to find something for you. Or if you do have to run, thank you so much for coming. We do these monthly, just to throw that out there. I send emails every month as to what we're doing. Next month, we are doing a panel on how to effectively teach in a hybrid or online platform. So that one's really exciting. We're working on getting some really great speakers lined up. We're just making sure schedules are all lining up, but that's going to be really exciting. And I think it's going to be September 25th, I believe. I'm going to double check the date.
Sorry about that.
The 26th.
Yeah,
26th.
it dropped me for some reason. Not sure why.
Oh, you're back. There you are.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I'll put it in chat here. So
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
there it is.
Yes.
Hey, I put something in the chat.
Cool. So ITF plus certification trainings for my students. Any suggestions? Oh, that's a good one. Anybody have any good resources for Litany there? Go see. To plug our first speakers, you can always go check CLARK too. There's 1,900 different pieces of curriculum on there, and some of them are geared towards the certifications and things like that. And if you can't find anything, I would also reach out to Leah. She knows the catalog, so she'd be able to help you point in that direction. But if anybody has anything for Litany.
Yeah, I do have Network Plus, but I don't have ITF. So
Okay. Okay. I like the idea of case studies. Yeah, I like case studies in my class as well. I have gotten some really good ideas from different stuff on CLARK, but then I also use the XP Cyber range, if you guys have ever used that one.
No, never heard of it.
Let me grab the link in here 1 second. That one's also free. I think it's xpcyber.com. I'm double checking the link for you before I send it. Yep, .com. These are kind of interactive, but they're interactive for like Linux and cyber defense, but they have like little stories behind them. So it does make it very real for your students. And they're really great because they're all online and they can do it through a browser, so you don't have to like set up VMs or anything fancy. And they're kind of like tabletop-esque. But the great thing is they're all online and students can do them individually. You can have them do them as a group. Um, so that's a great resource that I found for like higher level case studies, if you're looking for like really interactive ones. Ooh. Um, mhm. Cool. Anybody else? ITF certification. Anybody have ITF certification or case studies? Um, Not
You
quite
know, if
sure.
you're interested in case studies, um, what I could do is go back to Insight and see if we could do like an online 2 hour session. I can show you how to build a really good case study using AI. It's very easy to do it. So,
Oh, yeah, that
um,
would be. I know we get a lot of questions from new and early faculty about how to build a good case study.
yeah, I mean, the beauty of building a case study with AI, then you can build tools and it will
Hmm.
automatically incorporate the information from that company into the tools you build, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. Um, and then where's the link? Did you send the link, John, for the, oh, here you go, the events. Make sure that goes
Yeah,
to,
it's events, yeah. And that's where all the classes will be listed.
okay, cool. Tammy, that one
Called
for you.
AI for educators, I think is what we called it. So
Okay, cool. Yep, and that was for Tammy there. Okay, cool. Anybody else? Anybody have anything for ITF for Litany? Mhm. If not, I will ask Leah for you to see if there's anything.
you know, Whitney, you may want to reach out to Christine Christensen. I think she's
Mhm.
got something she could share with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I will. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah,
Okay.
awesome. Cool. Okay. Anything from anybody else? No. Okay. Awesome. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful start to your semester. This recording will be available on YouTube, probably sometime next week, but I will send you all an email when it is available. I will also put together all the links and contact information and send that in that email as well, so that you guys have all of that. But thank you again so much for joining. I hope to see you guys next month, at our hybrid and online teaching panel. So cool. I'm gonna stop the recording.